Hello and welcome to another episode where we're taking a look at the Rust programming language using the book of the same name, the Rust programming language. As I've pointed out in previous episodes, I do have a physical copy of the book, but the good news is it's also readable online for free. So yeah, if you're following along and want to learn Rust, that's a great resource. So I'm using that really as my backbone, if you like, for these sessions. So really this is about me going through and learning Rust using that, and what you see here, I suppose, is the epiphenomenon of that particular learning exercise which I'm recording. So we're going to be taking a look at functions this week, and what I like about the examples in the book is they're kept really simple. So I'm going to be going through some of those examples and explaining them. I have renamed some so that I could fit this into a single Rust file. You'll also notice I've already used Cargo to create a container, if you will, for my functions, and I've also moved to the functions directory within my directory structure that I created up. And you know, like I say, in earlier videos I've been through this numerous times, so I'm not really going to go through that particularly again. And then I've just done a few test runs here and copied in my code. So let's have a look at what we got here. So up here, this is just, I wanted to have something within the body of main to just show. So we've got a print ln macro which just prints hi from main, and of course, as you know, main is a function in itself. And you'll notice that when we actually get down to the first example here of something called another function, which is kept very simple, which is just a print of the phrase hi from the function. And you can notice that the function here, this is the function declaration, so we've got fn, the name of the function, some brackets, and then open curly brackets, the code block, which we'll be talking a little bit about later, and the end of the function. So you can see here I've actually declared the function after main, but it could be for before. So as long as it's somewhere using the fn keyword, so somewhere in the source file, be the top if you want, then that's good. And I've used the fn keyword and the curly braces to indicate the beginning and the ending of the function body. Now, Rust uses what's so-called snake case as the conventional style for variables and function names. So you can see here snake case, everything's in lowercase, but I have this underline so it's clear to see that it's the word another function. So it just makes it more readable when you do that. If the functions or the variables you're using compose of something that is more than one word. So that's a very basic function. You can see it's just executing something. It's just made up of a statement performing an action, which in this case prints hi from the function out. And you can see if we ran this in cargo along with my other functions, you can see there's my high from main, there's my high from the function. It's nice and straightforward, and I do like the examples they use here because it really sort of concentrates on the core functionality of the function without getting bogged down with too much additional code. And the nice thing, once you understand the basics of the function, you can then start to make them more complicated, which you're obviously going to do once you start coding in Anger. Now, not surprising, functions can be defined to take parameters, and parameters are also called arguments. Often the two terms are used interchangeably. So here we've got a function that's taking an argument, and down here we have the corresponding function declaration. You notice it has one parameter x and the type is specified, and you can see here how that's done. So we've got again the fn keyword, the parameter underscore function, which is the name of our function, and then inside of here we have our parameter declaration. And we're basically saying that our parameter x is type i32. And so we're just simply in this example passing the value 5 in there, and it's a very simple function which just prints out the value of x is, and then x in this case will be 5, and you can see, and you've seen this in previous episodes, here's the placeholder for the variable. But the key thing here is the structure of this function, and you can see here that's what we get as a result. Now, in function declarations in Rust, you must declare the type of each parameter. So for multiple parameter functions, a comma is used to separate the parameter declarations. So here's where I'm calling the function, and I'm passing two parameters here, 6 and 7, and here is where I am declaring the function. And you'll notice here, here's my two parts separated by a comma. So here's my two parameter declarations. X is i32 and y is also i32 in this example. And you can see in the body of the function, it's again simply printing out the value of x and the value of y. And so in this one I passed 6 and 7, and no surprise here, the value of x is 6, the value of y is 7. So that's how you get values into a function, through the use of parameters and the appropriate parameter declaration. But supposing you wanted to have a function that returned a value. So here we've got a very, again, nice simple example in the documentation in the Rust programming language book, which I much appreciate. So here it's simply a function that returns the value 5, and then we take that returned value, put it into x, and then simply print it out. So here the print is happening outside of the function, and in this example the function is simply returning the value 5. So when you're returning a value from a function, it requires a final expression in the body of the function. You can return early by using a return keyword and specifying a value, and we've seen examples of that in earlier videos where I went through the guessing game example. Now, the examples in this video so far, we haven't included an ending expression because none of them have returned values, as they're all just statements to perform some action. They're all print statements essentially. Expressions evaluate to resulting value, and it's important to pay attention to the expression syntax when you're returning a value. So here's the function declaration for the 5 function. You can see it just simply returns the value 5. And you can see a subtle difference here. Although I'm not bringing in any parameters on this, look at the syntax here. So we've got our usual declaration here, but then we've got this sort of arrowhead, if you like. So this is the first example of a simple function that returns a value. So if you notice the final expression of the function, it doesn't include a semicolon. If we added a semicolon, that would turn it into a statement, and that wouldn't return a value, and it would return an error actually. So we'll see what happens if we do that. Do we deliberately create an error and run it? Notice in the function declaration that the lack of name for the return value, that symbol, and the type. So this is an example of a function with no parameters and a return value. And you can see the way it's been used in the code here, it is just simply returning that value. Obviously, if I change the function in some way, you can see different value because it's returning a different value here. Now let's do that error deliberately. So let's put the colon in now, which is now making it, instead of returning a value, we've now turned it into just a statement here. So we'll do that. Yep, so straight away it gives us advice on that. I love Rust. This is great. Tells us exactly what to do. And there we go. We're good again. And in our final example, I thought it'd be nice to include an example with both a parameter and a return value, so you can see how those are defined in the function definition. Oh, there, I was going to do that error at the end, but we'll do it again just so you can see here, because we've got something a bit more involved. So what we're doing here is we're taking in the parameter y here, which is an integer, a 32-bit integer, and we're returning a 32-bit integer. And all this function simply does is it takes that parameter and adds 1 to it. So we should get 1 and the parameter. So up here where we're using the function, you can see here we're going to let our y variable equal whatever it returns after pulling in this parameter of 5. So we know what that's going to be. It's going to return 6, and then we'll just print it so we know what the value is. And you can see that's exactly what we get here. Again, if we change this in some way, change the function, so supposing it's no longer +1 anymore, it's +5, we'd obviously want to change the function name accordingly. But we'll just do that. And there we go. Now if we happen to put a colon on the end, let's just see what it does this time, because it is a slightly different thing we're doing here. But let's see what advice it gives us. yep, same thing. So we just put that back to how that function originally was. And there we have it. So there's some very simple examples to work with. I do like how the book starts off with nice, simple building blocks, and then I find that then encourages you to sort of scale it up. So of course with more advanced functions you'd have a lot more going on within the function body, both in terms of maybe what statements are being performed and what expressions are being used to return values from your function, depending on whether you want to have, you know, arguments go into a function and a return value come out, or an argument to come in and it's simply to execute a series of statements, you know, and all stations in between. So thanks once again for watching this video. Bye for now, and I will see you in the next video.